Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Here with me on the show today is Mr. Peter Akbo. You're welcome, Mr. Peter.
Thank you very much, Ofina.
I must say you're looking really, really fresh. You look like $1 million, like I said earlier.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Peter Akbo is a public affairs analyst and a social activist. Once again, it's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Ofina.
And now on to the story. Pandemonium erupted on Wednesday at the Lagos State House of Assembly complex in Alausa, Ikeja, as operatives of the Rapid Response Squad fired tear gas to disperse protesters demonstrating against the demolition of communities in Makoko and Iyanawuru. The tear gas caused workers, passers-by and protesters to flee the area, with eyewitnesses reporting injuries during the crackdown. The demonstrators, who carried placards urging the government to halt the demolitions, were blocked from accessing the assembly complex around 1:30 p.m. Protesters told Vanguard that several people were injured and some arrested, including activist Comrade Soweto. Organizers are yet to release an official casualty figure. Mr. Peter, right on, you know, when citizens come out to protest peacefully against the destruction, the demolition of their dwelling places, I mean, should the government respond with dialogue or tear gas? What do you make of this story?
Okay, so in the first place, it is a fundamental responsibility for the government to provide conducive environment for our citizens. And any government that takes up that initiative, we should give kudos to them. However, in carrying out this fundamental function, it should be approached with a rather human face. Yeah, we understand the government has powers, authority to move in and carry out functions that they deem fit, but we are dealing with humans, we are dealing with citizens that make up the society, that make up the unit you are governing. And you cannot treat these ones like animals. You cannot move in, probably on a very short notice, and boom, you are there with tractors pulling down houses and displacing people who may not have provided an alternative. So at that point, that's no longer development. That's no longer development. We should think of another word for it, because you're actually putting people out there. You're exposing them to risk. You're exposing them to harm. They could be raped. As for the females, they could be robbed of the little they've gathered, the little stuffs they've gathered. They could even be exposed to, today in Nigeria we hear a lot of ritual killings, and you're exposing these ones to these dangers in the name of development. So I do not so much appreciate that, because there are a lot of steps government can take to getting these things done. In other climes, you hear and see things differently, where if government has decided to develop a particular area, upgrade it, or whatever the case may be, alternatives are provided. Suitable housing are provided for these people to move out while government does whatever they've planned to do. So that's not a very good one on the part of the government.
All right, thank you so much for that analysis. I also like to bring to remembrance, you know, I don't know if you went through the reports. As at last week thereabout, we also got a report based on this same Makoko demolitions, where loss of lives were recorded. In fact, in the report, we even saw that a pregnant woman lost her life because of this demolition. She didn't have access to the hospital. The whole place was blocked. And apart from the pregnant woman, same day, about 12 other persons, including an aged man and I think two toddlers, also lost their lives. You know, Now the question is, how should the government strike a balance between development goals for the society and also protecting the rights and the life of vulnerable citizens? How do they strike the balance? In as much as we know that development, everybody likes development, yeah? But then when lives are now taken in the process, what do we have to say about that?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, you cannot talk about development where people are dying as a result of the actions you are taking. That's no longer development. I don't know if governance in Nigeria is different from what we see in other parts of the world. And I do not know how government take these kinds of actions without caring about how people feel, what they are exposed to, what they suffer. I recently saw an orphan whose father was run over by a drunk motorist. That was on Monday. And I saw him in a tattered clothes. He was looking hungry. And I was like, Golden, what are you doing here? And he said he's learning work. What kind of work are you learning? He said he's learning shoemaking. Now, this is not to say that shoemaking business is not a good one. I am not by any means trying to talk it down. But the Golden I know couldn't have been doing shoemaking at that age where his father alive. So that is what happens when government actions, begin to claim innocent lives. You've not just claimed a life, you've exposed the people under the guidance of these ones to danger, untold danger, sufferings. And I'm just thinking about how Golden feels doing what he's doing. This was a boy who was attending one of the best schools, looking very clean, well kempt and all of those. And all of a sudden he has turned into what I should call a street urchin based on what I saw just on Monday. So you've just mentioned about 12 lives lost.
Yes.
And that's a figure at 100. Beyond that, a lot of persons have been thrown into devastation. A lot of persons have been thrown into mental cases, of course, because people will grieve, become depressed, and then neuroses set in, and some might even get down to psychosis. So we are not just talking about 12 lives here, we're talking about a whole lot of people who have been plunged into a state of devastation, a state of crisis. And so I think if government wants to carry out any function in the interest of the people, as they would always claim, these things have to be planned. You cannot give a 1 week or 2 weeks notice, and just before the expiration, you are there with tractors.
Actually, sorry to cut you in. A report had it that although the people had been given a notice to evacuate the area, I think 2 years ago. But then, fine, they have been given a notice to quit the area early enough. But then what provisions did the government do? And that is what they are fighting for. And this also brings me to the next question I like to ask. It is now seeming as though in this our society, it is only when people come out to protest that they get the attention of the government on issues. And in this case that these people have come out to protest, the attention they got from the government was the tear gas and a lot of persons getting injured. Which other way do you think, which other better way do you think the government should have resolved this issue rather than letting it get to this point where we are now recording the losses of life, tear gas, and all the violence we are now recording now?
Okay, so it's a sad one, actually, to note that 2 years notice have been given, and obviously the people couldn't find an alternative settlement. And the answers to these queries are not far-fetched. We are Nigerians, we know what's going on we know what it means to live in Nigeria as at today. So most of the, in fact, if these persons in Makoko were well-to-do, they wouldn't be at that place to start with.
That's it.
So that tells you that, yes, government has given notice, and then the time, 2 years, yeah, it's fair enough. But not, how many of these persons can provide for themselves an alternative settlement within this period? So it doesn't stop at giving 2 years notice.
Yes.
The ideal thing should have been providing an alternative accommodation for these persons. Or at least, government could take up the responsibility of building houses and give it out on soft loans. For people, it is not too much. It is not too much coming from the government. We are taxpayers in Nigeria, directly or indirectly. These days, even the person selling sachet water on the street gets to pay tax one way or the other. So it is therefore the responsibility of government to ensure the well-being of her citizens. You do not take lives in the name of development. You do not create more problems in the name of development.
Okay, thank you so much for that perspective. Now on to the next story. Operatives of the Delta State Police Command have arrested a 28-year-old suspected internet fraudster for allegedly killing his friend during a dispute over a $1,000 transaction in Abago community in Ugeli North local government area. Police spokesman Bright Edafe said the incident occurred on January 21st, 2026, following a disagreement between the suspects, Ogenegari, and the deceased identified as Courage. Both men were reportedly involved in internet fraud when an argument escalated into a physical fight, during which the suspect allegedly struck the victim on the head. Edafe condemned the rising cases of violent crimes in the state, linking them to hot temper and drug abuse. In a video, the suspect claimed the deceased was his childhood friend and accused him of logging him out of the transaction that triggered the dispute. This is a sad one, and I mean, see how money turns good friends to enemies. God. And then the question is, do you not think that the pressure to make this fast money is really pushing our youths too far? And I mean, imagine having to kill someone else for a stolen money. It's now the money belongs to neither of them. They are trying to steal this money, and now he has to kill. In two crimes now involved in one. What do you have to say of this report?
Well, this is a very sad one indeed, and this is emanating basically from greed. In fact, it was greed that led both the deceased and the suspect into internet fraud, and that greed is what that has eventually claimed the life of one of them. And whichever ways we want to look at it, this is what happens when the steps are missed. This is what happens when one deviates from the right path. A lot of Nigerian youths today have deviated from the right path. So people now believe that whatever it is you can do to make money,
you just do it.
Is okay. One of Nigerian singers said something in one of his songs. He said, "Anything you sell is a market." And I should use this opportunity to mention too that artists and public figures should be mindful of the kind of things they say.
Yes.
Because these things have a way of inspiring their listeners. All right. Anything you sell cannot be market. You can be selling weapons, you can be selling human parts, and you call that market. You can be an internet fraudster and you call it hustle. Come on, guys. You can do better. You can do better. Now, two childhood friends, as the story has it, have become so drowned in greed that one had to take the life of the other in the name of hustle. So I would want to urge Nigerian youths to, as much as possible, identify their purpose and chase it with passion. We have not heard of any successful billionaire in the world who is an internet fraudster or into one shady deal or the other. Yes, these things just come as a blossoming flower. In the morning, they are so fine and attractive, and in the evening, they fade away. But if you get on the right way, if you discover purpose, get on the track, and keep hitting, eventually, you're going to get to your destination. So it's a very sad one. And while the law has to take its cost on the suspect, we can avoid reoccurring instances like these by dissuading the minds of the young people, the youths, to keep away from social vices, from internet fraud, popularly called Yahoo. And then the societal pressure too is another factor, right? The societal pressure, the expectations of the family, friends, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, also has a way of contributing to people getting into things that would eventually cut their lives short or take away their reputation if they had any.
I must say your words are quite didactic and motivating. And then still based on this, I don't know, but I like to ask, and I'd like you to enlighten us more. What roles do you think parents, community, and the system can play? I mean, parents, guidance, everyone around can play to curb this trend of Yahoo, this trend of going the extra mile, this trend of the pressure to make the easy money. What role does parents have to play? The community has to play, the schools, the churches. I know of some churches where these Yahoo boys go and they pray for their phones so they can pick money. How? Please.
Okay, so I will summarize the family role into one word, and that is accountability.
Okay.
Parents should learn to first of all be accountable and then ensure that their children and their wards are also accountable. You cannot come home as a child, a boy under 18, 20 years with an amount that I know you cannot earn based on your qualifications, perhaps the trade you're into, if at all, and then you are flaunting 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 million. Some even come home in
with
a
cars of 50 million,
and then you see
and
the parents
don't
jumping
even
and
ask.
singing praises. God has done it for me. What has God done for you? For crying out loud. This is a child that has not been able to earn a decent salary. No certification.
No job.
No job.
No business.
And you are singing, celebrating, disturbing the neighborhood that God has done. What has God done for you? And in most cases, or I should say some cases, these mothers, these parents who celebrate these irritating success end up becoming the victims of their children.
Yeah.
So please, I mentioned accountability earlier, and this is what I mean. As a man, you must be accountable to your wife, and vice versa. Your wife should know your worth. And when things begin to go higher than what you know of your husband, you have every right to question him, and vice versa. And this should extend to the children. Know who your child is. Know who their friends are. Know what they do. And if they've started jobbing, if they started hustling, know what they do and the extent to which they can, get some money from what they do. Know their worth generally. And when things begin to manifest beyond expectations, you have to ask questions. Accountability. And this has to start early. You cannot teach a 40-year-old man how to work. So a child who has grown beyond your control cannot all of a sudden become accountable to you. So this has to start early, from when you take your children to school. You have every right as a parent to demand to know what they've been taught in school. They should be able to explain as much as their brain can carry. They should be able to explain. What you're doing is accountability, because the consciousness that daddy is going to question me what I've learned in school today is going to keep them focused in class. However, their friends and colleagues may want to distract them. That consciousness that I'm going to give an account when I get home is going to have a way of keeping them focused. And when that grows in them as they grow, you remember the good book, I call it the good book, the Bible admonishes that train your children in the way they should go. So when they are old, they will not deviate. If accountability sits in the hearts of these young ones, they become conscious of rendering an account for every penny they make. They become conscious of giving an account of every success, whatever it is they are doing in life. And if this is the case, there will be a level of restraint on the decisions they make. There will be a check on, excuse me, on the kind of friends they keep. So please, let us introduce accountability in the home. Let us teach our children accountability. Let us inculcate. I don't want to say the fear of God. I don't want to sound religious here. But let us inculcate morals, good morals, into our children, and we will have a better society.
I like the fact that you took the discussion to the area of parenting, intentional parenting. Charity, they say, begin at home. Yeah. I mean, if these youth had good upbringing at home, they were taught some of these things, I don't think a lot of them will go astray and start doing all of it well. All right, on to the next story. Oyo State Police Command has arrested 2 dismissed Nigerian army personnel over their alleged involvement in armed robbery operations across the state. The arrest followed credible intelligence and a coordinated operation by operatives of the Command Monitoring Unit within Ibadan. Police spokesperson SP Olayinka Ayanlade identified the suspects as David Okaye, a dismissed corporal who allegedly impersonated an army captain, and Balogun Afolabi, also a dismissed corporal. Preliminary investigations revealed that the duo specialized in robbing unsuspecting members of the public of the vehicles at gunpoint. Several vehicles and a motorcycle were recovered during the operation, including 2 Toyota cars, a Lexus SUV, and a supercargo motorcycle. Police said the suspects have confessed and are assisting investigations while urging victims of vehicle robbery to come forward for possible recovery. Mr. Peter, what do you make of this story? Just give your opinion. Okay, I have a lot of questions. I just want you to give your opinion.
Okay,
first.
so I shortcode, not because the story is funny, but because one just have to live. You just have to survive. Yeah, we cannot die in Nigeria. People give excuses for their involvement in crimes. You hardly get a suspect that is not going to give you myriads of reasons why they got into the crime they are being accused of. And while some of these excuses may sound valid, I will summarize the excuses as bullshit. The question is, if everybody chooses to embrace crime because there is an impediment somewhere, a hurdle somewhere that they are finding difficult to deal with, what becomes of the society? Who do you steal from? If everybody chooses to become a robber, who do you steal? Who steals from who? Everybody in the society, however highly placed, is dealing with one challenge or the other. So if you, in your journey of life, come across a hurdle, and instead of strategizing, looking for ways to dealing with it, the best you could think of is to pick up arms and begin to hunt innocent Nigerians, stealing, killing, maiming in the name of I don't have a choice, then it is absolute bullshit. And I like to say that the story mentioned that they are dismissed soldiers. I do not know the circumstances that that led to their dismissal, but whatever the case is, I have seen young Nigerians who left the military or the armed forces and are doing well in business. They are doing well in their chosen career. I was in a training sometime last year, and somebody from NCDMB, who was one of the facilitators, the guy spoke so well, and at the end of the day, I walked up to him and said, please, I'd like to know you better. I'd like to keep this relationship. Who are you? I mean, and then in his introduction, he revealed that he is a resigned Nigerian army. And I asked, why did you leave the system? He gave his reasons, which I do not have his permission to disclose here. But instead of going this route of becoming an armed robber, that young man chose to recalibrate his mindset, to take his mind from what he didn't like. Instead of becoming a problem to Nigeria, he focused in energy in another area, and today he is a resource. He is a resource. He is someone you meet and you wish you continue meeting him. He has helped and has touched a lot of lives, and he's still doing. So you are, the good book would say, oh man, you are inexcusable. You have no reason to go into crime, whatever the circumstances are.
All right, thank you so much for that. Like I said, I have a whole lot of questions. I would really love for us to look at this story critically from the point where we have it that the persons involved in this crime are dismissed personnel, security personnel. I mean, do you not think that this is what happens when individuals with criminal and cultist past are being recruited into the Nigerian army? Take a look at the porous process of recruitment in the Nigerian army. They barely look at character. It's majorly height, and they barely look at character. You know, it's like bringing a criminal, training him, and arming him. And then, mind you, we know that these persons were dismissed. No one gets dismissed for a good reason.
Of course.
What crime did they commit? And how did the people in charge dismiss these persons and let them loose into the society? I like us to allude to the Bible a bit, because I see this as almost what happened in heaven between God and Lucifer. When Lucifer became rebellious in heaven, you know, God decided to dispose him. And he threw him down to earth, where he has his children, his beloved children. Although our own case is kind of different, because, I mean, the Bible says he has given us power and dominion to trample. So at least we are given something. But in this case, you throw down these bad eggs into the society after you had trained them. And then you do nothing. What do you expect from this kind of situation? What result would you even expect?
Okay, so, yeah, obviously, like I said, I do not know the circumstances that led to their dismissal. Why I'm saying this is I've got to know or to speak with some dismissed officers who would claim innocence. Some were wrongly accused, especially with the rising tension in the north. Some would say they were dismissed for engaging terrorists without approval, without permission. Yeah, we get to hear and see these things now and then on the internet. So, but whatever the circumstances was, there is absolutely no justification. And for your question, I guess you're asking couldn't there have
Is
been
the
a better
outcome
way?
not supposed to be expected? Are we even supposed to be surprised that this is happening?
If I give a yes to this question, then I'm justifying their actions, right? If I give a yes to this question, then I'm saying, okay, yes, it's okay for an aggrieved, dismissed military personnel to get in the streets.
I don't think that's the justification, and that's a justification, and that's the point I'm trying to get at.
Okay, let me get you clearly.
I'm trying to get at the point where we see this from the people at the top. Okay, these people, whether they were dismissed for wrong reasons or not, they have no justification. No reason is good enough. But the head, the leaders who dismissed these people and let them loose just like that, without...
Okay, so I get the point now. Now, I'm not a military personnel, although I've made several attempts to join and couldn't. I don't want to say I didn't scale through, but I wasn't given the chance.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure there are provisions in their code of conduct, yeah, depending on the offense. Some lead to court-martialing, right? Some lead to dismissal. Some lead to compulsory retirement. So let us assume that what these guys did wasn't something requiring being court-martialed, right? It was something that just dismissal would be good enough. So the right action based on the code of conduct have been taken, and it now boils down to these personnel. Why chose the path of armed robbery? You've been trained as a military personnel.
What if they were already into this robbery and cultism before they became recruited?
Okay, so if we are going to assume, if we are going to assume that perhaps they were dismissed because of their involvement or suspicion, then the government, the military could have done better.
I meant before they were recruited.
Okay, so at the point of recruitment now, for anyone who has tried joining the military, you understand this. You have the qualifications, the height, everything.
Can you tell me about some of the qualifications?
Okay,
I do not.
It depends on where you are joining from. Like for the military, if you are a graduate and you want to go for short service, you will present your degree, NYC discharge letter, and identification and all of those. Yeah. So, having presented all of this, you have the right to be interviewed, and if you were to be dropped out, there should be a cogent reason. But what people see a lot of the times is they go through these rigorous processes, and at the end of the day, people who did not even participate get these chances. That's where the question of the credibility of the process comes in play. In 2009, I wanted to join the Nigerian Navy, and for like 2 weeks or more, I was going to Navy College at One, and it's a very sad experience though. After all the processes we went through and everything, the day the shortlist came out, about 95% of us who were there, some were even sleeping there, people who came from a very far place. We had people from Bayelsa and all of those. They were even sleeping there, the mosquitoes and everything. But when the lists were shortlisted, about 95% of us on the camp were not there. On the morning of that day, we saw people coming in with their wards and their children. So what happened was they used us as a makeshift to give the impression that, oh, a recruitment is going on. But they already had people that are going to join the force. They had a list already. So this is where these kinds of persons come in. They come in through the back door. This is where they're coming from. So you see senators and government officials settling their boys with these slots. And that is disturbing, because you already know who these persons are. Now, when they handled gun illegally, you know what they did. and they are still doing.
That
and
is
now
the
you've
point.
legalized the gun in their hand, and you've released them to the innocent Nigerians. So what do you expect? What do you expect?
You just hit the hammer on the nail, the exact spot I wanted you to. All right, as we round up on this very report, I want you to very briefly, give recommendations. I mean, when it comes to monitoring and reintegration, when you dismiss security personnel, most especially those who disobeyed the rules, those who misbehaved, when you dismiss these people for bad reports, is there not supposed to be a monitoring process before reintegration? Do you just let them loose like that, go into the society and cause chaos?
Well,
what should the government do?
Like I said earlier, I'm sure there will be provisions in their code of conduct already prescribed for these things. So if the offense committed requires imprisonment, that would be administered.
Okay.
If it requires mere dismissal, that also will be administered. And if we want to go the route of the government trying to rehabilitate and reintegrate these ones into the society so they don't become deviants, they don't cause problems, for how long will this process go on? Because for someone who has chosen to be irresponsible, who has chosen to be bad, it's hardly satisfying, no matter the time you give, to get them completely off the path they've chosen. So it is more a question of character and not what the government should have done or should do. If I have been dismissed from service for offenses I know I committed, I should be remorseful in the first place.
Okay.
And decide to prove myself a better person, other than, okay, so now they've dismissed me, I will use my skill to show them, I will deal with them. That is wickedness. That is wickedness. And even if you were unjustly dismissed, I am sure there are channels you could pass through to getting justice. But if you chose to let go, then become a meaningful and a useful and responsible member of your society.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peter, for that beautiful analysis. And on to the final story. The Anambra State Police Command has arrested 4 suspected cultists in Nkwo community, Idemili North local government area, during an operation carried out by the Special Anti-Cult Squads in collaboration with local vigilantes. Spokesman SP Tochukwu Ikenga said the suspects were arrested following the recovery of a suspected stolen and abandoned Honda Pilot vehicle in Akuzo, Nkwo, where bloodstains were discovered inside the car. The suspects reportedly confessed to being members of the Baga Confraternity, a cult group accused of terrorizing the area. Ikenga assured the residents of the command's commitment to maintaining security across the state, adding that investigations are ongoing to arrest other gang members and recover weapons. My big question, my big opening question is this. Why is cultism still thriving in Nigeria, in our society, in our communities, despite the numerous arrests? I mean, why is cultism not fading? Why is it not dying? Why is it still always there in our community?
So the one of the reasons is, if a business pays, no matter the dangers associated, you will hardly successfully dissuade a friend from getting in it. So sadly, very sadly, we live in a society where the bad guys are the most loved. Yeah, they get attention from government officials, from the big boys in the society, because they are readily available to carry out their ulterior motives. So a young man growing up will have to choose between a decent uncle or an elder brother who has gone to school, came out with a second class, second class upper or first class, and is probably doing a 35,000, 40, 50,000 naira teaching job in a private school, and another uncle or a relation, someone he knows, who stopped somewhere in secondary school and can hardly make a meaningful sentence, and yet is cruising in a Toyota Hilux, guarded by military personnel. Why? Because of his involvement in cultism. So it's more of a societal thing. Otherwise, our children, our young ones will not be choosing this path if it was debased, if it was made less lucrative than it is, if it was talked down collectively by the society. But these children, these young ones, have to make their own choice. They want to be like this uncle who is doing very well because he's a cultist, and not to be like this uncle who speaks very sweet Queen's English and yet cannot afford a good pairs of shoes. So that's where the problem comes in. That's where it comes in.
All right, thank you so much for that beautiful one. You know, before we wrap up, finally, I'd like us to look at the ages of these 4 boys involved in this crime. If you went through the reports very well, you'll see that the eldest of them was about 22 years old. And we have the one who is 18 years old. I mean, how do such young children get involved in killing and stealing cars? How did we even get here? I want you to throw a bit of light and still talk about the Rose family. It still boils down back to the family. An 18-year-old boy is now a criminal. Who should we even hold responsible? What are the parents doing? That boy has a mother. What is the mother doing? What really went wrong? What happened? I want to throw a bit of light on this and then give your final message just before we round up.
Okay, so yeah, I mentioned earlier that it's a societal thing, and of course the family is a unit of the society. And in my own opinion, I would suggest that those who are intending to be parents should be very intentional about parenting.
Oh my God.
You cannot begin to, at some point, you as the parent, you lose your right, your authority to talk to them, because you have proven to be a failure. So what are you telling these young ones?
Wow.
What authority do you have to cancel them, to reprimand them? You've lost it because you cannot provide their basic needs. And remember what the good book says, again, the Bible, that he who cannot provide for his household is worse than an infidel. So these children grow up very early to beginning to fend for themselves. And in doing that, they are exposed to a lot of things. The older boys in these cult groups take advantage of them.